So for today's bonus segment, I'm very excited to introduce Nicole Bergen. Nicole leads Elevate Marketing Research. Nicole focuses on marketing and developing brand value for personal injury law firms. Very excited to introduce Nicole today. We're going to be discussing brand value for personal injury law firms. Personal injury law firms more and more are catching on to the importance of developing brand value to attract clients. And we're going to talk about that. And we're also going to discuss the importance of brand when it comes to selling a personal injury law firm. Nicole, welcome. Love to hear more about you and Elevate, please.
Thank you for having me. So excited to be here. In a nutshell, I help law firms understand the consumer. We conduct over 10,000 interviews a year in different markets regionally, and we help law firms understand and measure their trust, their preference, how well their brand is resonating with the people that they serve or want to do business with. So I am just the voice of the consumer. I connect the dots for law firms, helping them understand that so that they can refine their marketing messages to land in front of the consumer in a way where it resonates. And I help measure it through
Amazing.
consumer research. Yeah, it's really fun.
Awesome. All right. So we're going to have two questions today.
Okay.
So our first question is, what do you recommend for personal injury law firms seeking to develop and measure their firm's brand value, including how to score high on Elevate's brand report card?
Great question. It's a bit of a loaded one. I think we kind of need to separate it into two, if that's okay.
Yeah,
So the
let's do it.
first part of your question is, how do you develop brands? And that's a complicated question, right? There's a lot of paths or avenues to get there. But the first thing I would say, Jeremy, is ask yourself as you're developing your personal brand for your law firm, what's in it for me, the consumer? So whether it is that you're crafting a billboard campaign, a meta campaign, you're writing TV copy or radio scripts, you really want to come back down to what makes us unique and what's in it for me, the consumer, in doing business with you. If you can't answer that question, you're not developing a brand. A brand is the answer to that question. Does that make sense?
That makes total
Oh,
sense. Makes total sense. So you've developed at Elevate an actual report card
yes.
for scoring for personal injury law firms.
Yes.
How do we measure where you are at any given time with developing your brand? How can you make it stronger? So can you tell us about that report card? I mean, everybody wants to get an A, right? But it's hard. It's hard to earn it.
Yes.
I think you're our teacher.
There you go.
Yeah. All right,
Well,
so
just remember, don't shoot the messenger. I'm here to tell you what 500 people in your area have to say about your firm. Let's go ahead and pull up this report card and let me walk you through it and explain. And listen, I get this is not for the faint-hearted. It might be a little scary when you get this report card. So please note, this was a study that was done for a law firm, and you can see they have some competitors here, right? So how am I doing? Well, it depends. How are you doing versus everybody else? So first thing we need to understand is, what is your awareness? There are other questions that are asked before this report card, Jeremy, and we get here. We've arrived to this report card. So let's say Searcy Denny Law, right? They're in the dark blue. And here we have Morgan and Morgan, right? How does Searcy Denny do on the concept of having a track record of winning for their clients? Okay. The market, the personal injury space, meaning the people we interviewed in this study, which were non-rejectors of hiring a law firm, right? They have to have auto insurance and, certain ethnicities and incomes. We'll kind of move past that. Just trust me that it was a legitimate sampling of people. And they're saying, well, you're not winning on that. Okay. Someone else is, or even better yet, look at the I don't know, Jeremy. In some of these key things, a lot of consumers don't know who's doing a good job of this out of all the law firms asked about. So that's actually an opportunity. So what we like to do at Elevate is say, okay, what are the things that consumers in your area value? The items on the left here in the rows. That's step one. Then step two is, how are you doing on those items, right? Which you see here. And how are you doing versus your competition? So this measures all of that brand work that you're doing, Jeremy, and tells you, is it landing, right? Is my brand momentum moving in the right direction? And if you're preparing for investors, this is a critical piece to show them why they should be making that investment, right? Because I'm winning in these things that really matter to people. Or, hey, look at all this percent I don't know. This screams opportunity for future growth for my firm. I imagine you have a question, but
No,
I don't know if I explained that okay.
no, you explained it great. I mean, I think that brand is really developing among law firms generally, and certainly among personal injury law firms, right? We talk. So many people talk. Who doesn't talk about billboards, right? You drive down any highway, we're going to see billboards. How does that actually translate into developing brand, let alone multi-channel digital marketing, right? Law firms are spending upwards 20% of their gross revenues on marketing. And how does that translate into brand? And I think you said it so well. And I've heard you speak before, Nicole, about what's in it for the consumer. Okay. So if you could just share maybe a couple tips out of that report card of, from what you've learned so far, what's in it for the consumer that's going to let PI firms really start developing brand value in their communities?
One thing I will say is we all need to stop using the term advertising and think about it as me-vertising,
Mm.
right? What's in it for me, the consumer? It's not about just spending money and getting your name out there. It's leaving an impression on the consumer. And there's a lot of personal injury firms, right? How do you differentiate yourself? So pick a USP, a unique selling proposition. Let's say you're going out in your billboards and you want to be known as reputable and trusted, right? You're really wanting to lean into that honesty. So you launch a campaign about honesty and you've got 10 billboards up and down the freeway. We will see, Jeremy, when we do these brand report cards, what's going on here with this honesty reputation thing? You seem to have moved the needle quite a bit here. And we'll uncover that they just recently launched a billboard campaign that was specifically about that one thing. And you'll see it pop up in the report card. But it takes time to leave that impression, right, with consumers. And so one of the pieces of advice that I often will give is don't try to chase too many things at the same time. Pick two.
Hmm.
Pick two things that you really want to be known for, that you think you can win on, and that maybe is a point of differentiating. You're really good at this, better than Morgan and Morgan. Okay. And then lean into it hard on Meta, on your billboards, don't get distracted by the noise and trying to put 50 million things and NASCARing it out, because then you're just going to fall into a sea of sameness.
Great. And before we move on to our next question, could you just put a definition a little bit more on mevertising? Can you tell us, please?
So it's what's in it for me, the consumer,
Good.
right? So instead of thinking about going out there and talking about you and all, what's all about the firm, what's in it for them? How can you demonstrate empathy to the consumer? I mean, think about personal injury, Jeremy. It's a very emotionally charged event in someone's life. They may need to hire a personal injury firm once, hopefully, in their lifetime, right? If at all. So you got to approach that with some sensitivity and thinking about what's in it for them. Does
Terrific.
that make sense?
Absolutely. All right. So let's go into our second question.
Okay.
So our second question is, what are your thoughts about how a personal injury law firm's brand value can enhance overall value when planning for a sale as part of an exit strategy?
Well, think about to quantify to someone interested in investing in your firm, to show them, right? Like we just saw on the brand report card, how you're moving the needle, what kind of momentum you have, that investment you've made in mevertising, right? What impact has it had on the area that you serve? If I'm an investor, Jeremy, and I see this law firm I'm thinking about investing in has a 30% I don't know in the market, but they have momentum on honest and credible, I want to invest in that firm, right? Because there's upside for me to help that firm grow with additional investment in the mevertising, right?
Very good. I completely agree. And just to add on to that, what we continue to see in the marketplace as sales of personal injury law firms has really started to take off in the mid 2020s. The word that we hear so often is EBITDA, right? Is a multiple of EBITDA. I think what Nicole, or I should say, I know what Nicole is talking about is a whole nother line item when we're selling a law firm, which is the goodwill brand value of the firm. And when firms can have and present data analytics that shows is that mevertising is translating into sales because of brand value, that's going to add additional zeros. Could be a lot of zeros, by the way, when you are taking on, as Nicole is saying, an investor, or when you are selling your personal injury law firm. So Nicole, thank you so much. How can people reach you, Nicole? And can you tell us a little bit more about Elevate before we say so long?
Yeah, absolutely. I love publishing our data. We're constantly publishing free studies. We just did the largest personal injury study. I know you saw me at a conference recently, over 1,200 Americans. If you want a copy of that presentation, hit me up in my DMs and LinkedIn. Our company, Elevate Marketing Research, posts these insights all the time on our LinkedIn page, white papers, things that we're seeing in the field, and just all that free research is available to the industry. It's our gift to all of you to help you guys succeed. So feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn or our company page, Elevate Marketing Research. But if you want to shoot me an email, of course, you can do that to Nicole at growwithelevate.com. I'm happy to accept carrier pigeons as well.
Wonderful. Nicole, thank you so much. And by the way, I do encourage people to please join and reach out and connect with Nicole on LinkedIn. Nicole.
Yeah, if you want to get your own personal brand report card, let's get to work.
Absolutely. So Nicole, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure, Jeremy. Thanks for having me.